Good evening from my backyard where my son Reese and I are going to be looking for frogs tonight. The frogs and toads are all calling, as you can hear, and it's a beautiful full moon tonight. So we're just going to see what we can find and kind of share some of that with you. That is an American toad, and I just adore their call. Very beautiful, kind of melodic. They might not be the most beautiful creatures, but they make a wonderful sound, and I just love to hear them. Isn't that nice? I just adore that. Here we have a spring peeper. This is one of our smallest tree frogs. These little guys can sit comfortably on the tip of my thumb, and yet you can hear them from almost a mile away. They are super loud. Here's another one. Okay, just to kind of give you a scale here, this is, whoa! And they're great little jumpers. How small, you could see them there in Reese's hand. They are quite tiny. I mean, there he is compared to his thumb. As I said, they would sit comfortably on your thumb, and that's not a baby. That's as big as they get. Now I can see really well one of their characteristic markings is an X on their back. And it's kind of hard to see now because of him being on the tree, but I think you may have been able to see that pattern. There it is. That little X there. It's kind of hard to see because of the glint there. But anyway, this is one of our tiny frogs. Another one that we have is the western chorus frog, which is similar in size. There's that X. You can really see it now. The western chorus frog differs, though, in that it's got stripes down the back and not an X. And also it has a white upper lip. And it's got more of a trill rather than a peep. It kind of sounds more like somebody running their thumb across the teeth of a comb. Kind of a preep, preep type of a sound. So we'll let that little guy hide there on the tree where he's comfortable, and we'll see what else we can find. So this is what it sounds like in my backyard tonight. These are mostly spring peepers that you hear. They're quite loud. It's almost hard to hear yourself think when you're surrounded by these little guys. And a beautiful full moon tonight. This is a vernal pool, which is a temporary wetland. It fills with spring rains and dries up generally by the time summer rolls around, which makes this a perfect place for amphibians like these spring peepers to lay their eggs, because there are no fish here. Fish would eat those eggs. So I'm just going to let you listen to these frogs for just a little bit. So we're looking at a leopard frog, and their camouflage is so extremely good that I bet you can't see it yet. So I'm going to get down closer, see when you can spot this frog. I bet you see it now. Excellent camouflage. It's probably hard to hear me over all these frogs, but we're actually seeing some tadpoles too. Tiny little tadpoles. And those are probably from the spring peepers. Could also be from western chorus frogs. These are very, very tiny. I don't know, Reese, can you put your hand down there just to kind of give us some scale? So you can see, oh, he had one there for a second. There we go. Tiny, tiny little tadpoles. We don't want to have them out of the water for very long, but you can see that these guys are everywhere. There's a whole bunch of them swarming around. And we did find some eggs too. Right here is an egg mass, and each of those tiny little eggs will also hatch into a tiny little tadpole. Okay, so we have a different species. It's not really its breeding season yet. This is the green frog, and they look a lot like a bullfrog, but what's different is they have these lines that go from their eye down. They're called dorsolateral folds. You can really see those lines there. And the bullfrogs do not have that. The bullfrogs would have a lack of those, and it would just kind of curl around the ear here, this tympanic membrane. Looks like a penny on the side there. And this one is not calling right now, but if he was, it kind of sounds like somebody playing with a rubber band, kind of a bam, 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 bam kind of a noise. And I know it's a male because the throat is bright yellow. Again, the males will have a darker throat for the fact that they are stretching that skin every time they call. Looks like they're blowing a big bubble, and that discolors it a little bit. Also, we know this is a male because the ear is larger than the eye. If it were a female, the ear would be about the same size as the eye. Now, something interesting too, frogs have 3 eyelids. You can kind of see it looks like he's giving us the stink eye there, but that is his nictitating membrane, which is kind of like a built-in pair of goggles. So when he goes underwater, that membrane will go up. I'm going to try to show you that. When I close his eye, you might see that line going down. There we go. That is their 3rd eyelid. There, it's halfway up, halfway down. Built-in goggles. Pretty cool.
Salamanders.
Now this is pretty cool. This blobby mass that looks kind of like dessert, like Jell-O, is actually the egg mass of a spotted salamander. Now the spotted salamanders are a bit larger than most of the salamanders that you would find in a creek. These salamanders have already come and gone. They lay their eggs in the winter when it starts getting warm enough to rain. And this egg mass could have about 100 little developing salamanders inside. And they will lay these eggs in the vernal pool. There are no fish here. Fish would eat the eggs. And the reason they come out in the winter to do this is because they have to go through metamorphosis just like a frog, going from a tadpole stage to an adult. And they start out with gills, and this vernal pool is going to dry up. So they need to get a jump on things. They need to have time to go through that metamorphosis before that happens. And so they lay their eggs in the winter, generally February, March, when it starts to get warm enough to rain. And then they go back into the woods and they live in underground burrows. Their nickname, or the group they belong to, is mole salamanders. So there are others in that group, and Jefferson salamanders, tiger salamanders, spotted salamanders, and you can kind of see when you look down in there some of the developing salamander larvae. They're actually kind of starting to look a little bit like little tadpoles in there. So it's pretty cool. You can see them actually developing through that egg mass. So we have another little hidden frog. We'll zoom in on it here, see if you can find it. There it is, a little spring peeper. Peep. So we found a pair of spring peepers in amplexus, which is what they call it when they are, when they found each other and the males are clasping onto the females, just waiting for when she's ready to release her eggs. Okay, so we've got lots of amphibians here, all in one. Of course, we have the American toad, who is the squirmy little one right here. And then Reese also has a couple of leopard frogs. And we have a young bullfrog. And when we compare that to the green frog that we had earlier, you can see that it does not have those lines. And actually the leopard frogs have those dorsolateral lines, those folds, but the bullfrog does not. So it's a young one, and when they get bigger, they are our largest frog. So the bullfrogs would eventually come out in the summer, and they have a very deep sound, kind of a boom, boom. The bigger the frog, the deeper their voice. That's why those little peepers have such a high-pitched tone. So you can see lots of activity in the backyard tonight. So that little chirp is called a release call, and the males will do that so that they let other males know that, hey, I'm not a female. Right now it's probably his way of telling Reese, hey, let me go, kid. All right, I hope you all had fun hanging out with us in our backyard, catching little frogs and toads. It's been a beautiful night, and I've enjoyed spending time with you. I really hope that very soon I'll be spending time with you back in our parks.